I told you guys today I had a treat for you. And I do. If you watched the last best of video, which finished all of my TV awards, which were not highly watched, but I am a movie critic, so maybe the movie stuff will get more traction. Um, I did mention that I had something very special for today, and it's because I'm able to line it up perfectly with the Oscar nominations. This is the worst of 2023. Now, immediately, there are people who are going to be like, wait a minute, so give me a second, hold on. Don't back out yet. Don't click out. So, I understand the whole art for art's sake thing. And art is subjective. And, to each their own or whatever. Whatever comment you want to make about like, well, someone out there liked it. It was made for some. Lots of people worked on this. It was really hard, and we all. True, incredibly valid argument. This is not that. This is really interesting because I'm the only one on the internet who's making this list. This is the top 10 worst films of 2023 based on lack of accessibility. Oof. Ugh. This is my unique perspective of a blind film critic. And as you may notice from subscribing to my channel, I do review films that do have that don't have audio description, as well as films that do have audio description. I did grade a couple films this year that did not have audio description because of either how the film was made, or a special circumstance because I felt like the material itself warranted above, or I just didn't grade it. I also don't grade things sometimes where I can't say that the film lacking audio description warrants me giving an endorsement for blind and visually impaired people to watch, but at the same time, I recognize what the film is talking about, usually with documentaries. So, but I also use the term unwatchable a lot. It's intentionally a harsh term because I want someone involved in the industry to hear me saying that their film is unwatchable and wonder why I'm saying that. So I actually came up with a bottom 15. These are the 15 worst experiences I had with inaccessible movies this year. And hopefully I can remember everywhere I watched them, because this is also shaming the services that hosted them and how I did not get how there was no accessibility offered to me as a blind or visually impaired consumer, despite the fact that I pay the same as everyone else for my subscription. So, I told you this was going to be it's just a totally different list. So, all right, so coming in at number 15, I did 5 honorable. Everybody does like a top 10, but then they do honorable mentions. I'm just telling you where they are. Okay, so number 15 is Children of the Corn, which was a fundamentally stupid movie regardless. I can't imagine that even with audio description that I would have given this film a high grade. But I did put it as unwatchable when I graded it because it's a horror movie, and it's a horror movie with no audio description. And there are a lot of things that are happening and you have no idea what's happening. You just sort of get sound effects. I didn't really have high hopes for the film in general, having watched it. The script, the acting, there's a scene where the kids come in and then the adults all laugh at them like in really cartoonishly over the top ways. They're all like, and I was like, what is this movie? And they're all like, the kids are all like trying to save the planet and stuff. It's just very weird. But I have to acknowledge the fact that it's a horror movie with no audio description, which makes it inherently, not only was what I could understand not great, but there was a whole bunch of stuff that was the sole purpose of the film that was also not watchable. And this is courtesy of AMC Plus. This is a Shudder original, and they do not host audio description for their own films. Mind-blowing, I know. Generally, These films do have an audio description track, but they will not host their own film's audio description. They let other people do that. Yet, their system is totally built for audio description. They have audio description on a handful of titles like Tales of the Walking Dead and the second season of Kevin Can Fuck Himself. So, why they don't put it on their own movies? Baffling. I don't understand. But this is number 15. Moving up the list.
Children of Grammatical Error, The Corn.
Number
Unseen.
14 is Unseen, which is technically a film that I graded, but I graded it because I really thought the portrayal of blindness in the film was incredibly stupid. This girl was so functionally blind without her glasses that she couldn't see like a step in front of her face. And she had no set of skills to figure out how to do anything at that point. It's not like she was blinded by something. This is how she's lived her whole life, and she has no skills for when she loses her glasses. Like, she's never lost her glasses before. And I just thought the film was fundamentally stupid. However, it's also a terrible experience to watch because she's just like wandering around the woods and communicating to somebody else on a phone who's trapped inside of a gas station, trying to help her out over video conferencing call. But I can't remember if it was like Apple specific, but FaceTime basically. And and just trying to help her navigate and be her eyes. Be my eyes. Be my eyes, the movie, guys. So yeah, no, this was hot garbage and a mess either way. Kind of like Children of the Corn. I don't really like either of these movies, but both of them have elements. But it gets worse from here. So Unseen was one of 2 films this year that I gave an F grade to, and it's a number 14. So, woohoo! We're moving on.
The Creator.
Number 13 is The Creator, which is a film that I openly admitted in my review. I was like, I kind of stopped paying attention because the problem with The Creator was that I actually kind of liked what it was doing, like when I could understand what was happening, and I really wanted to watch the film with audio description. Unfortunately, it's been on like Hulu and Disney Plus for like a month, and it doesn't have audio description. So I'm waiting. I'll eventually do a VOD thing for it, probably, and just buy the damn thing and then watch it that way, because I did kind of like the movie. I kind of zoned out because I wanted to have that experience of watching it the first time, but because it was so hard to follow. But like, I would pick up on something, I'd be like, that's clever, and I really wanted to give this film its due. So thanks to Hulu and Disney Plus for not providing audio description for a Fox title that was released and is up for consideration at the Oscars for visual effects. So anyway, yeah, great. Super fun times. Obviously, must be really hard. The struggle is real at Disney these days. They can't even get their own audio description tracks onto their own streaming services.
Sound of Freedom.
Sound of Freedom. This is, did I mention that Unseen was AMC Plus? And Unseen was also AMC Plus, in case I didn't mention that. Or was it AMC Plus? Never mind. I take that back. MGM Plus. That's where I saw Unseen. MGM Plus. I knew it was a plus. There was a plus after it. I remember now. It was MGM Plus. What did I just say? Number 12, Sound of Freedom. Don't worry. If you're a Sound of Freedom fan, it's not here because of the quality of the film. The lack of accessibility on this film makes it really hard on a blind and visually impaired audience. It just does. This film largely takes place in like Central or South America, and just not everything is in English. We don't get the translations. There's no dubbing. I can't read the subtitles. It has action sequences. Sometimes it just has these long shots where I have no idea what I'm even supposed to be looking at. So it's just a giant mess. And then you just have weird conversations throughout the film that just are like sort of interspersed in between when you can actually understand what's being said, where you can actually understand what's being said. So Sound of Freedom, courtesy of Amazon. Thanks, Amazon. Love you. Bye. Bye, Felicia.
Gran Turismo.
Gran Turismo on Netflix because Sony's poor. And there's a GoFundMe to help keep Sony alive as a company, because they could not actually make audio description for this film. I can't find audio description for Gran Turismo. I'm assuming it had it for theatrical, but like on VOD and like the Apple Store doesn't have it, and then Netflix doesn't have it. Sony is usually really bad about audio description tracks. Um, Last year I watched the Whitney Houston film without audio description, and like later on it had it. So uh yeah, they're not great about putting audio description on things, but Gran Turismo is a racing movie. I mean, it's also a drama, which is why it's not a little bit lower on the list, because there are a lot of dramatic scenes between, you know, relationships and stuff. And the acting was kind of good where I could pick it up. But then there are these racing sequences where you just hear, that's fucking boring when you're blind, dude. I don't even know who's racing. It just fucking sounds. I can do that with my mouth. Uh, this film is ass without audio description. So thanks to Sony and thanks to Netflix for nothing. Moving up the list. It's getting better. Number 10 goes to a film that I actually
Cobweb.
kind of liked and totally would have. I have a feeling, honestly, that if this film had been presented with audio description on Hulu, probably would have gotten like a BB plus from me. Generally, I liked what it was putting down, but it's a horror movie with no audio description, so Cobweb makes the list. The third act, I literally read it. I read a full breakdown of the third act. I was like, I got none of that. Absolutely none of that from this film. The third act, like the first two acts are not great to follow. Actually, this is a film that gets progressively harder to follow as it moves on. As the horror elements start to seep in, it becomes harder and harder to follow this film. It just, like, things start happening and getting bump in the night, and you're like, what's going on? And it becomes even like, not only does a sighted audience not not know what's going on, but it becomes even more confusing for a blind audience when they start pulling that shit as to like, I don't know what just happened. Neither do I, because I don't even have the audio description and you can see, you know. Yeah, so Cobweb is number 10 on my list, but I have to fully acknowledge that, especially after reading the description of the film, the performances that I picked up from the film, I'm a big fan of the cast. Woody Norman was fantastic in Come On, Come On. Lizzie Kaplan, Anthony Starr. I have no reason to believe that this film would not have actually gotten a positive review out of me had it just been accessible. That's all it needed to do, was be accessible. I could probably say the same easily about like The Creator and Gran Turismo too at this point. Maybe Sound of Freedom. It's hard to tell. That one's sort of borderline for me. But yeah. Anyway, moving up the list.
El Conde.
Number 9 is Il Conde. Another film that I admitted in my review. I was like, I actually kind of like what this film is doing, what it's putting down, and I actually kind of wanted to grade it because I kind of liked it sort of had the Great vibe to it, you know, where it was this very interesting way of presenting the film in this. I don't know if you've seen The Great and you know what I'm talking about. There's just like a certain way that they present history. And I feel like a little bit of that bled over into Pablo Larraín's El Conde. One thing that didn't bleed into Pablo Larraín's El Conde was audio description. The director of Spencer, that film with Kristen Stewart got her to an Oscar nomination. I guess Netflix figured, hey, blind people won't be interested in this. Fuck you. You don't know what I'm interested in. Put audio description on your shit. I'm tired of Netflix and their bullshit about not putting audio description on foreign language titles, especially the ones that they're picking up and trying to get into award circuits. So they're giving them even more attention than they would a lot of their random foreign titles. Like, why was I able to get audio description on Killer Book Club, but not El Conde. Bizarre. Just utterly bizarre. It's also, I need to point out, a vampire Pinochet movie. So if you think I'm just being mean to Netflix and trying to stick my point out, one, it's only ninth on this list. And then two, it's a vampire movie. Like, again, it's a horror thing. I have none of the violence. I have none of the gore. No idea what anything was going on. And when you live this film vicariously through dialogue only, it tends to kind of become something else. And it's not really a horror movie anymore. It's just kind of satire, which made it kind of interesting and funny, but I much rather would have preferred to have the entire experience instead of like a part of the experience. I don't think Pablo Larraín would want me grading his film based on a part of his experience, but you know, maybe that's what I need to start doing, is just failing films because I can't understand them again. Anyway, moving up the list.
The Good Mother.
Number 8 is The Good Mother. I don't even have a review after this because I literally just saw this and I have a banked amount of reviews. But I did just see this. It just dropped on Hulu. It is a 2023 title, so it's absolutely valid to be on this list. This movie is this movie is ass without audio description. It's one of those I have a very particular set of skills. You've taken my child type of movies, except in this film, Hilary Swank doesn't actually have a very particular set of skills. She just is a journalist. So it's not nearly as exciting as you would think. My favorite sequence was when I felt like the score was there and it was building to something. It felt like we were being chased or something, or stalked. And it was like, da-da-da-da. You could hear like there was like a tapping, like a it was a really intense scene. I had no idea who was being stalked or how many people were even in the scene. And then all of a sudden you just hear somebody throw up. It's just like, you're in the middle of this like really intense sequence where you think it's going to end with like some screaming or shouting or like a fight or something. And just like, all you hear is, I was like, thanks, Good Mother. That totally out of context, that makes sense. Thank you so much for this experience. And thank you to Hulu, once again Hulu, for not providing audio description. You're going to hear Hulu a lot. You're going to hear Hulu a lot on this list. Just so that you know. Full disclosure. Moving on.
The Unknown Country.
Number 7 is The Unknown Country, which is still unknown to me. No, this one I actually did choose. This is Apple VOD. I rented this. It was later made available to me as a screener, still without audio description. And I don't know, maybe this is on AMC Plus. I feel like I saw this somewhere else too. It's somewhere. Anyway, it didn't have audio description. I watched this after Lily Gladstone got the Gotham Award win for Best Actress. It's so independent. It doesn't have it. I barely understood anything in this film. It has almost no dialogue. This is not, it might be a great independent film, and this is a referendum on independent film. I get it. You don't have a whole lot of money to make your films. I actually know how much it costs to put audio description on a film now, and it's not that much. So you're either making a choice to have accessibility or to not have accessibility. This past year at Sundance, Marlee Matlin was a juror, and very interestingly, they required that all films had accessibility for her as a deaf/hearing impaired person. So, in one instance, when they had a film, they walked out of it. Now, they weren't thinking to themselves, oh, these films have really low budgets, and they can't afford to do this. No, they just required accessibility. And I wish people would do that for us. Fuck it. Just put audio description on shit. There's no reason. Last year I saw a film with Dale Dickey and Wes Studi called Love Song. And it was a small film. It was just like two of them. They're out by the lake in this trailer and they're just talking. And it couldn't possibly have cost that much money. it costs that much money. The stars are not that expensive. But that film had audio description. If you care about audio description, you will put audio description on your film. I reviewed one of the Oscar nominated shorts for animated short last year. It didn't have audio description. And immediately the people who made the film reached out to me and wanted to solve that problem. So independent filmmakers have the ability to do this. So I don't feel bad by putting The Unknown Country on here just because it's independent. I don't feel like I'm like kicking somebody while they're down. You fully have the ability to put audio description on your film, regardless of what your budget is or how you got here. And if you're submitting yourself for awards consideration, did you ever think there might be a blind voter? Because I am. Food for thought. Moving up.
Kandahar.
Kandahar stars Gerard Butler and is an action film, so like the other kind. Usually you hear a lot of horror films that were on this list, but Kandahar is an action film. It's also set in the Middle East, and Gerard Butler is like really the only person who speaks English in this film. It was just a giant mess. It just sounded like a lot of gunfire. It sounded like I was watching somebody play Call of Duty. Like, honestly, this film is just I couldn't even tell you what it was about. After a certain point, I was like, I have no idea. I don't know what's going on anymore. I've completely lost the plot of this film. It started out, there was a nice phone call home where Gerard Butler got to establish that he has a family, and he's like, hey, love, I'm gonna stay here a little longer. I don't know why I always have this accent, no matter what country I'm representing, but I'm always here. And, you know, and then it just kind of devolves into an action film from there. It might have been okay. There's a film that did it better this year called Guy Ritchie's The Covenant, which does have audio description on Amazon. But Kandahar, very similar film, feels like a similar film anyway, set in the same area, does not have audio description, and it's on Hulu. So Gerard Butler also had another film this year, Plane, which I watched on Stars. I left it off my top 15 list. It came close, but it also didn't have audio description. So this was not a good year for Gerard Butler.
Infinity Pool.
Next on my list is Infinity Pool. Yeah, this didn't have audio description. I believe I watched this on Hulu. This was so long ago. But this is body horror. This is even worse. Last year, if I had done this list specifically, Crimes of the Future likely would have been number one because I ended up watching that without audio description. And I tried. You know what I'm saying? Like, I tried to follow that film, but it's mostly set up to make you go, ooh, ew, ooh, you know? And it's the same way. It's also set up to make you squirm. And I can't squirm if I don't know what's on screen. I mean, the thing is with a film like this, I watch it and I try to absorb what I can. And then later on, I'll read the best recap I can find. And I'm like, yeah, I got none of that. So, this was incomprehensible, pointless, just some dialogue, but none of it makes sense because it has no context. So, maybe Brandon Cronenberg's Infinity Pool is a masterpiece. I have no idea. But it's on my list of the worst of 2023. So if he wants this film to not be on the list of worst of 2023, he can put audio description on his damn films and make sure it travels to wherever so that everyone can watch his film and not just like the exclusive few on one platform or on one streaming service or in theaters or however. I've heard this film does have an audio description track, so it's just probably a Hulu thing, which is not surprising, but I did say Hulu was going to be on this list a lot. Next on the list,
The Conference.
The Conference. I don't even know what the fuck this movie was. It felt like The Hunt, but somehow not. Like I didn't quite understand what it was we were doing. it's not an English language movie, which honestly I didn't notice because it kept pushing it on me. I guess it was a slow weekend for Netflix. You know how they have that top banner, and when they release new movies, they usually put it up at the top, and they just keep kind of pushing at you. Well, the conference was up there for a while. I was like, fine, I'll watch the damn conference. This movie better be good. I didn't even know what it was, and I clicked on it, and then I started realizing I was like, this is dubbing. Isn't this? So I didn't even know I was watching a movie not in the English language when it didn't play with audio description. And as I was moving forward, I was like, what is this movie about? And like you get an idea, but it's funny because it sort of is like played like a comedy. So the best thing I can come up with is like The Hunt. Is this Spanish Hunt? I don't know. I've I don't. There's something about they're building. They were building something, and somebody was mad at them. It was killing them off because they were building, I think, like a strip mall or a gas station or something. I can't remember. This film was not fun to try to follow without audio description, and it's so funny too because like the tone and the dialogue and the way these people were talking to each other wasn't like they were in a horror movie, but then like people would be killed off and you'd be like, I think somebody just died, and then you'd come back and everybody just be like, oh my god, this is amazing, I love this conference. Or then you'd have like two people like out on a boat together, like rowing to somewhere, but I have no context of where they are to begin with. Like I'm not even, where are you rowing to, where were you? Like, anyway, it's a very weird film. And Netflix really should consider audio description on all of their original content. Perhaps. If you're going to continue to present your content to us as being hot new originals, perhaps you should consider English audio description on all of your content. Anyway, moving on.
The Boogeyman.
Ooh, The Boogeyman. This was on Hulu. This was really hard to follow. This is a film where it gets really quiet and things go bump in the night. Problem with that is things go really quiet and go bump in the night. I don't hear shit. I don't even know what's going on. I think Chris Messina dies in this. I don't know. I couldn't follow it. There was people like talking to a therapist at one point in the film, and things were happening, and I've heard some generally favorable comments on this film. So I would like to give it the benefit of the doubt and say this is probably a better movie, doesn't deserve to be on this list. But all I'm going to tell those people who like this film is, why don't you blindfold yourself and go watch a film and then find out what it's really like to watch a film like this. It's incomprehensible. This film was just a big nothing burger for me. I got nothing from it. I could barely understand it. I remember doing my review and just being like, I don't even know what to say. I don't know what this film was about. I don't even know if it was following a linear storyline, anything like that. I got nothing out of this. I don't know who dies. I don't know who lives. Just one ear and out the other. Just gone. Anyway.
Passages.
My runner-up for worst film of 2023 is Passages. This is not a fun film to watch. This was also Apple VOD, and this was also because the actor won an award, and I was trying to just round out my, awards stuff. Interestingly, this movie also, like The Unknown Country, was made available to me as a screener for my voting body. I didn't watch it that way. This is not me being like, well, my screener didn't come with... you can check my receipts of what I pay for on Apple VOD. Both of these films were on Apple VOD. Yeah, I actually think this film was like really cheap too. I think I got it for like 99 cents at the time. I think it was on sale. I think it was. Don't quote me on that, but I think it was. I think that was another reason why it motivated me. This was like, it's like partially in French, and I don't speak French. You know what I'm saying? And it wasn't dubbed. So like half the film I just didn't even understand what was going on. The other half of the film is like fucking. It's just like sex sounds. And then there's like a little bit of Ben Whishaw talking. And then this guy who has the weirdest English accent. And I probably, I get it. Speaking other languages is hard. I'm here. This film is here because I don't speak French. And if I were to try to speak French, I'm sure my French would be atrocious. This guy's not a native English speaker. It makes it even harder to figure out what's going on in the scenes that he's in when he is speaking English. Um, and all I really had is a couple scenes with Ben Whishaw and his acting. And that's not a movie. Those are clips on YouTube. Uh, so Passages is on this list. So what's the worst experience that I had of 2023? I have to say, there's a giant gap between 2 and 1 here. Huge gap between 2 and 1. And I do have one honorable mention that does not fit the category. And it's also not necessarily the worst of 2023 because of the lack of accessibility or because I thought the movie was dumb. My worst experience with audio description this year was Foe on Amazon. The audio description on the film is atrocious. So while I don't feel like making a top 10 list on accessibility, I will say that the TTS audio description that is attached to that film was never quality checked, and it sounds like ass. So my honorable mention, if you want to know what the worst film of the year is that was with audio description, also, I'm not saying it's a quality thing. If the film had better audio description, it may be higher on my list. I know where I graded my films. I gave Foe an F largely because of the experience that I had and the fact that I was actually provided a level of accessibility. It's just that level of accessibility was atrocious. I still don't think Foe is a great film, but I'm not sure it deserves the F. It was the other F that I gave this year along with Unseen. So, my number one film of the year that I did not grade, I graded as unwatchable. I don't even know why on God's green earth anyone would ever think this film should ever be watched without audio description. But the worst film of 2023 due to lack of accessibility is, predictably, if you know what I'm about to say, then you saw Skinamarink. Skinamarink is baffling without audio description. It's an experimental film. I get that. And it is an AMC Plus Shudder original. And guess where I watched it? On AMC Plus / Shudder. So they do not put their own film's audio description on their own service. Weird. Why do you have one? So this film did have audio description in theaters from what I've heard. But again, when you watch it, when you wait for it as an actual Shudder title to go to Shudder, it does not have audio description on its own service, which would be like Disney movies. Could you imagine if all of those animated Disney cartoons didn't have audio description on Disney Plus? People would be losing their fucking minds. So why people aren't more up in arms about this is beyond me. Shudder Originals should have audio description on Shudder. Netflix Originals have audio description on Netflix. Hulu Originals have audio description on Hulu. Max Originals have audio description on Max. Paramount Plus Originals. This is not hard math. AMC Plus has the ability to have audio description. Their service is built that way. They just don't have it on certain titles, and this was one of them. I watched this when it dropped. It's possible because Skinamarink dropped back in, I want to say March on the streaming service. Maybe it was April, March or April. It was pretty early because the film was released theatrically in January. So I did see this really early. So have I gone back? I mean, it's been almost a year. It's been a year since the film was released theatrically. Could they maybe have added audio description last year? I guess. Am I going to check every single day to see whether that's going to bring as an audio description? No, I shouldn't have to do that. So I watched this like a sane person when it came out on AMC Plus, Shutter, and yeah, it doesn't have audio description. And there's about 13 words of dialogue in the entire film, and the rest of it is just like sound effects um, and atmosphere. And yeah, I sat through the whole thing. So I deserve to be here. I deserve to make these comments. I am entitled to it. So Skinamarink is my pick for worst of 2023. But again, this is not a subjective list. This is objective. This is the opposite of it. You know, art is subjective, and we all have different tastes and different likes. Accessibility is not. You either are or you are not accessible. So these are the films that were the least accessible. There are films on here that I said I think I would have enjoyed had they had accessibility. So this really is based on how awful the experience was to watch it without audio description, how unwatchable these films were based on audio description. Levels of unwatchability. They were all graded as unwatchable. But just how unwatchable were they? And I hope you like this list. I would love for this list to trend, so please share. I've never asked for anybody to ever share one of my videos before, but please share this list, and maybe any of the filmmakers associated with any of these films will care that their films were presented inaccessible to blind and visually impaired audiences. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please click that subscribe button so I can continue to talk about audio description content in front of as big of an audience as possible, so I can continue to advocate for audio description so that films don't end up on this list, and also so that maybe I don't even need to exist. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I'll probably always exist, but half of my job is to just continuously remind people that we don't get the accessibility that we need. I do have a website, macmoviiguy.com. Follow me on X, Threads, or Instagram at MacMovieGuy. You can go to the audio description project, adp.acb.org. It'll let you know what has audio description and where you can watch it. And you can go to the ADNA.org. That's the ADNA.org. It'll let you know who's narrating films that have audio description. So that's it for me today. Hope you enjoyed this list. It was fun to make. Sort of. Actually, also kind of depressing. I hated putting some of these films on this list because I think they're probably good movies, and to put them on a worst list was not good times for me. But unfortunately, this was just accessibility. Thanks for watching. See you guys on the other side.